Hello everyone, my name is Hubert, and I've been playing the Simpsons Hit and Run recently. As I believe many people have, especially with the yearly leak that a remake or a remaster is coming. But not only have I been playing it, I've been loving it. You can say many people love it, hence the yearly disappointment when no news surrounding it gets an official mention. But I've been loving it so much that I've completed it, and started falling down the rabbit hole of the weird changes from console to console. And so I thought I'd make something out of that, and take all the interesting changes from the cutting room floor and present them here. I will be segmenting them into obvious, subtle, and other. There will also be spoilers, but I'll try to keep them on the low. Starting with obvious, the tutorial in the first level has some funny voice lines from Bart talking to his father Homer.
All right, player one, Homer. Use the directional button or left analog stick to move around. This is called walking. Press the X button to jump and hold down the circle button to run. Anytime you're in the air, hit jump again to get a little extra push. Got it?
There are 3 different variations from the 4 consoles in this tutorial, with the only main difference being what Bart says for the buttons. Now you may be wondering, what do you mean by 3 voices for 4 consoles? And this is technically correct because the PC version actually allows you to rebind the buttons, so they saved time and decided the tutorial was not going to have voice acting, which you will find is the first of a few changes that makes the PC version actually a little bit worse than the console versions. Additionally, due to the size of the GameCube disc being so small compared to other discs, some sacrifices had to be made, such as textures being lower quality. On the topic of the discs, they offer an odd uniformity, with the GameCube discs being the same as the PC, only with minor changes here and there, like the fact that the black part on the GameCube disc being the watermark, and the PC having the disc identifiers, because there were 3 discs, because they couldn't launch it straight from the disc. Or have a good download side for that matter. And then the Xbox and the PlayStation 2 have the exact same discs, with the disc watermarks being different obviously. The fact that they have 2 designs for 4 platforms, and then use those 2 designs for 2 different consoles, each is something that you don't see all the time. Especially with the GameCube having a disc watermark being a solid 30 to 40% of the surface area, and the overall size of the disc being smaller than the average lightsaber mint. You would assume the PC discs would use the Xbox and PS2 design, but I think I prefer this because it's easier to identify disc 1, 2, and 3 this way. Onto the more subtle things, there's an unlockable car in the game known as the hover car. It's a pretty good car with some notable and weird changes between the different versions, with the car in the game being transparent across every platform. In the PS2 and Xbox versions, the car is the same, being completely transparent with Professor Frink and Apu, or your Simpsons family member of choice, being seen through the windows. In the PC version, the car is slightly less transparent, with being see-through but still there, as well as the character being seen. The GameCube takes a little more of a practical approach to the car, with it being opaque, but this was probably a limitation. Instead, the in-game frame lags behind and is offset. The GameCube version is basically the start cargo plane. Between the console and PC versions, there are some things absent, like a single buzzcall vending machine in the console version that, for seemingly no reason, is completely gone in the PC version. Also, the sun has no flare in the PC version. The game crashes when a cheat is entered on the title screen instead of the in-game option menu. On console versions, the driver of your vehicle can be seen turning the wheel. Certain NPC car colors do not load on PC, and finally, 2 signs outside the community center and Springfield Elementary do not have randomization, leaving them with the same texture every time you load the area. However, for those PC master races out there, don't fret, because a single lemonade stand in level 1 does not appear on the console release. So I guess we now know why the PC version has to be downloaded and can't be run straight from the disc. The in-game textures change from platform to platform, with PC being the highest, Xbox and PS2 having slightly lower graphics, though not enough to warrant a separate picture on the cutting room floor, and the GameCube having much lower graphics. One image is actually different though, for no apparent reason, on the PC, with a single picture of Snake Jailbird behind bars. The audio has basically the same parallels as the graphics, with the only difference being that the Xbox actually has higher audio than PC. PC has the same as PS2 for some reason. The PS2 version runs at 30 frames per second as opposed to every other version running at 60, and there is a cheat that allows you to blur the screen, possibly a drunk effect. This is accepted as a cheat in every version, but has no effect on every platform but the PS2. And finally, the others. These are the things I thought really didn't fit anywhere else. Starting with just a kind of personal question, I have to include this somewhere in the video, but I own one physical copy of the Simpsons Hit and Run, and it's a little scuffed. But I could deal with that 100%. The manual is ripped, I don't care. But why is it in black and white? It is definitely a real manual, same gloss as one, same size, but every page is colorless. I've tried Googling it, but nothing. I've looked up a hit and run manual, and all I find is some definitely illegal pages and manuals in color. There has to be some difference here, but Google has not even a single answer. One thing I thought would not fit in the subtle differences is the, for some reason, Xbox exclusive widescreen setting. I can see why this was left out on the GameCube and PS2 versions, kinda. I mean, just stretch it. But the PC version? You can already change the resolution. The game will even tell you when you can't use one. Why not have widescreen included there? Just include a little text at the end that says widescreen. From what I can tell, there are no major changes from the game region to region, but there are a few text changes in the PAL release to account for more text language to language. And in the Australian release, the line,
"Don't come in here. We're making sausage. Man sausages."
was completely censored and removed entirely. Some cheat codes in every version of the game are unusable due to the fact they have no combination attached. And there are also a lot of them that have no known use. In every level, there's these things called gags. There are little references to the show, or just funny things. You know, gags. That man sausages quote was, for one instance, a gag. There are a few gags in the game that go completely unused. For more info, I will leave a link to the cutting room floor where a lot of this info was gathered from, but a quick rundown is probably needed. So, there was a merry-go-round at the school and at the park near the Simpsons house. In the tobacco fields, there were crows set to spawn in level 1 and 4. The crows would become bats in level 7, but all 3 were cut due to memory loss. There's a doll in the android dungeon that would inflate and deflate, but this was cut due to a bug. Hans Millman would have appeared stuck in his car in level 3, and finally, there's a gag in the game where Nelson punches Millhouse. This gag is in the game, but the unused version would have looped. And I believe finally for the second, by editing a byte of data, you can enter a warp from the telephone booth. That's why I put them in this video, because they're probably in every version of the game, but can only be accessed on the PC version, making them more or less exclusive. Well, that's the video. You can leave now if you want to, but I just have one final question. What is the best version of the game? Well, to put it simply, the Xbox version. It has the best graphics, widescreen, that's really all you need. The best audio, all the dialogue, that one vending machine in that one part of the game, and, you know, the console versions are generally superior to the PC version. So, this is the better version of the console version. So, yeah, if you have an Xbox, get this game. The second best is very clearly the PC version, because it's on PC, you can do pretty much everything you want to. In fact, mods for the PC version of the game are still coming out to this very day, and in fact, that's how you play widescreen on PC version. There's this thing called the Lucas Mod Launcher, I believe. I'll leave a link in the description if you really want to do it. And yeah, there's a ton of mods. A lot of these things I mentioned, that one little lightning round there at the end, those were all accessible through mods or modifying the code. So while it's not technically the best version, it's still pretty good. It's also completely free, but you know, all versions are if you really want to. Now, when it comes to the PS2, it's one of the worst versions. I mean, the PS2 version, you know, what can I say about it? Well, the PS2 wasn't the best console. It released a whole year before the rest of them did, so a lot of the games were not as comparable to each other, but the only reason it's better than the GameCube version is pretty much because, well, the GameCube discs were extremely small. I mentioned it earlier in this video. So it has lower everything because everything had to be compressed. It was made for like the Xbox and PC version. The PS2 version kind of worked, and the GameCube version, oh, it was rough, but it's still pretty playable. I mean, that's the version that I played. But yeah, and then the GameCube version. I mean, if you have any of the other versions, get it. But if you have a GameCube, the game's still very, very good, and, well, none of the changes make it extremely terrible. But yeah, if you don't really care about specs or anything, get any version of the game. They're all extremely good. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say. So thank you so much for watching, and well, please subscribe. I'm begging on my hands and knees, please. Please. Also like and comment if you want to. Well, I don't care. Good night.